Hello and welcome back, Squirrel Nation. I hope you're all having an outstanding morning, noon, or night, whatever it is your time. Anyways, today we are diving into Dragon Knights. This is an 8-man composition, and I have updated my infographic structure based on feedback that I received from both the Reddit and from YouTube. So anyways, with that said, let's dive in. So starting off, Dragon Knights, the entire idea behind it is that the dragons start off with their ultimate when you have all 3 dragons. You need Shining Dragon, Venom, and Dragon Knight, and what happens is they start off with 100 mana, meaning they instantly ult as soon as the battle begins. So that is a lot of burst damage, and then also Dragon Knight puts out a lot of sustained damage once he's in his dragon form. So your damage is coming from your dragon synergy, and your front line and some added damage is coming from your knights. So I did attach the class and race to each of these, but there you go. So on my overview, the main thing for Dragon Knights is it is very, very, very reliant on getting the Dragon Knight himself. If you do not get Dragon Knight, you won't have your dragon synergy, so your damage is going to be bad, because dragons on an individual basis are not very good units. So if you just have a Shining Dragon, or you just have a Venom, or you just have both of those but no Dragon Knight, they're really, really underperforming for their cost. So you can end up in really bad cases if you're holding a bunch of dragons on your bench and you just can't find that third dragon. So Dragon Knights, that is the key to Dragon Knights. But having said that, if you get this full composition built out, watch out everybody, it's basically GG. After that, you just have to keep rolling and upgrading, and you are going to dominate almost all teams. A lot of these matchups, if you notice, it crushes warriors. The reason for the warriors and goblins is warriors and goblins provide you with armor. Dragon Knight and Shining Dragon actually do magic damage, so they are the majority of their damage. Like Dragon Knight, actually when he becomes a dragon, does magic damage as his auto attack, so that's why he mitigates all armor, and that's why he does very well. Mages just can't get through the tankiness of the Knight synergy, and then they just get crushed by the Shining Dragon and Dragon Knight just AoEing down their health pools. Assassins just don't do well. Same thing, because of the dragon synergy, assassins, when they jump onto the back line, which are the dragons, the Shining Dragon and Dragon Knight, they just get bursted down, and in general they're not going to be able to kill them before they get killed. 50-50s, I put other knights, and losses I put Glacier. I do have a lot of issue running into Glacier Knights, so I think Glacier Knights beat Dragon Knights if they're at the same level and everything like that. But that's probably one of the only comps that I really, really struggle against as a Dragon Knight. The reason I put Feathered and Hunter in 50-50 is because it kind of depends. So it depends what hunters they've grabbed. It depends if they're a 3 or 6 hunter, that type of thing. For Feather, it depends how strong their assassins are. So if a Feather has a very strong Shadow Crawler, for instance, like a 3-star Shadow Crawler, they're probably going to beat you as a Dragon Knight because they can just insta one-shot your main damage, which are the Shining Dragon and Dragon Knight. But if those things don't happen, then you actually have a favorable matchup. So it just depends. That one just kind of depends. But anyways, okay, so that's overview, that's matchups. So this is something I added new, is hero substitutions. So when you're building up to Dragon Knights, like we said, the main thing is you need to get your 3 dragons, but actually the knights don't matter as much. The knights are your tanks. And keep in mind, the 3 knights that are your main tanks, well, 2 are Evil Knight and Argali Knight, okay? Hell Knight is a really nice one because he's tanky and he does a good amount of damage. So if you can't get all 6 knights, that's actually okay. You can run this comp with 4 knights and 3 dragons, okay? And the 4 knights that I would say you want to get are going to be Argali, Evil, Hell Knight, and Dragon. So you can actually do without Lightblade and Frost Knight. The comp is better if you have them, but if you can't get them for some reason, here are some substitutions. So for instance, you can replace like Frost Knight and Lightblade Knight, or 2 of your knights. So say you're running your 4 knight synergy, you can replace the other 2 knights with the Shadow Crawler and Templar Assassin. And the reason replacing those is so good is because it can get you the 3 times Assassin buff or synergy, and it can also get you Feather synergy. So say that you had the Lightblade Knight, then you would actually end up with an Assassin and the Feather synergies just by picking up Shadow Crawler and Templar, or Shining Assassin, sorry. And so Soul Reaper works well because it gives you the Aegis buff, which basically strips enemies of their armor. So that's another unit you can switch in. Also, if you take this to 9-man formation, I really recommend going for Soul Reaper as your 9th unit. It just works very well because then you have 6 knights, you have 3 dragons, and you have the Garrus buff, and it just does very well. Another thing is if you pick up an early Frost Knight, which is pretty, I mean, Frost Knight's very easy knight to get, you can grab a Berserker, and then your Berserker can become a major source of damage. So let's say you're not able to find that Lightblade Knight, you want to replace her style of damage. Her style of damage is she is pounding on the enemy front line and her shots are ricocheting through everything. Well, Berserker is a really good replacement to her because he basically does the same thing. He's going to focus on the front line and he's just going to chunk them down on those big, heavy tanks. So anyways, those are some hero substitutions. This is formation. So the thing came up on Reddit. None of this stuff is anything super new. There's all these meta comps out there. The reason I'm putting this video and these infographics together is to just kind of condense all the information out there and make it very easy for all of you to consume. So anyways, none of these are really my original stuff. A lot of this is things I found online in different sources, and then I'm just simply giving you that information and incorporating my experience in with it. So I hope that helps everybody. But anyways, this is a very good standard formation. This is not the only formation I'll use. For Dragon Knights, you need to experiment based on the comps you're playing. But anyways, I think this is the best general formation. So you have your 3 tanks in the front, and I call this the C formation, by the way. So you have your 3 tanks in front, you have your Lightblade and Venom in your second row. The reason for that is both of them actually have 3 range, so they can actually shoot whatever your front line is attacking. And then you have all your main damage is your Dragon Knight, so you want to keep him very safe in the corner. Same thing with Shining Dragon, and Frost Knight has 3 attack range, so he's just here to kind of soak if assassins jump in, and he's basically a sacrifice. He's the weakest unit in this comp, and him dying is not a major impact. So that formation works well. Another formation I will use is I will flatten out into a 2-row, kind of like for anybody who is familiar with my Elf Assassin, I will use that same style of setup, and the Dragon Knight and Shining Dragon will stay in the same place. The thing is, I'll scoot over Frostblade, bring down my Lightblade Knight, and then have my frontline tanks in front there. So anyways, you can play around with that. Items, I also kind of changed the item structure. I'm just going to show you debuff, defense, mana, and attack, and the reason for that is just to give you an idea of what heroes are and what type of items you want to put on. Don't just hold your items forever until the late game. I recommend you put on your items as you're getting them. If you already have and this is why I set it up this way. So if you have an Evil Knight, okay, I would start putting defense items on him, because when you get leveled up to late game, you're going to be happy that your Evil Knight has defense items. Same thing if you have Argali Knight, right? Put your defense items on him. So let's say you have an Argali Knight, but you don't have an Evil Knight. Still, just put the defense items on Argali Knight, right? They're slightly better. Like Evil Knight, if you notice formation, is your main tank. He's the person you want soaking the damage, but at the same time, it's not worth it holding all those defense items in your bag just to have that slight edge in the late game, right? It's just, I would put them on these heroes. So anyways, so I gave 3 examples because this gives you plenty of choice based on what heroes you do have. So if you get debuff items, you want to get them on your Dragon Knight, your Lightblade Knight, and Venom. The reason for that is attack speed. They have high attack speed, and Dragon Knight and Lightblade Knight are your 2 of your main sources of damage, so you want them debuffing. Dragon Knight, you can actually put magic debuff because, like I said, the auto attack is magic damage based. So that will actually, whoever he's focusing with his auto attack will take a lot more damage if he has a magic resistance item. Lightblade Knight is physical based, so you want to put the armor debuffs on her. Mana regen, the most impactful ultimates in this composition are Argali Knight, Shining Dragon, and Hell Knight. That's why I say you want your mana items on them. The reason I didn't put Dragon Knight in here is because Dragon Knight is instantly going to ult. As soon as he turns into a dragon, his ult is useless, so you don't really care about mana. So it's different than when you're running Glacier Knight. So, okay, for all of you who run Glacier Knight, it is different. You don't want to put mana items on your Dragon Knight because he's instantly going to transform into a dragon because of the dragon synergy. And then attack items, once again, Dragon Knight is your heavy hitter, especially once he's 2 stars. So stack your attack damage onto him, and you are going to be happy. Lightblade Knight and Hell Knight as secondaries. So once again, say you are leveling up, you're getting a ton of early attack items, I would totally feel fine putting them onto my Lightblade Knight. Like Mask of Madness, you would want on your Lightblade Knight because she has a passive, so it's a great item on her, so stack those attack items there if you don't have your Dragon Knight yet. Okay, so strategy, we already kind of covered this, but let's go through it real quick. So this is how I look at it. I want to get all 3 dragons, and another thing about Dragon Knights that I will mention here is it's a type of composition where I go for it if I get a Dragon Knight. Okay, so if I get a Dragon Knight, generally I'm gonna hit level 6, and I have a 7% chance to get an epic. And Dragon Knight is an epic unit, so at level 6 is generally when you could start to hit them. It's very lucky, but you could hit them. Level 6 is around level 10 as the chess player. I'll hit level 6 generally around level 10, and then all the way to level 15 I'm just econing, meaning I'm saving up my gold. I'm trying to get to 50 gold, and I'll generally get to 50 gold, I don't know, somewhere from around 15 to 18, and then that's when I'm going to start re-rolling and trying to put together my comp. The reason I mention this is because if I do not get a Dragon Knight by the time that I start to re-roll, okay, so by the time I get to that 50 gold and I start to spend my gold to look for units, I'm not going to go Dragon Knights. I'm not going to force Dragon Knights from there because it's just too high risk. I'm going to end up spending too much gold re-rolling just to get my Dragon Knight, okay? So that's why I start with the very first step is get all 3 dragons, and if you don't have all your dragons by the time you're finished building your economy, and let's say let's give a hard rule, around 17. If you don't have a Dragon Knight by round 17, and that's not counting re-rolling, okay? Don't spend money re-rolling to round 17. I'm just simply saying the shop that comes up for free at the beginning of each round. If you have not got a Dragon Knight, do not go for this build. But anyways, if you get that Dragon Knight, grab it. And it's fine if you don't have dragons at that point, then you can re-roll for the Shining Dragon and Venom after you have your Dragon Knight. So anyways, step 1, get dragons, okay? You get your 3 dragons, then your priority is to get the 4 knights. And like we said, prioritize your tanks, which are Argali, Hell, and Evil Knight, okay? So try to get those tanks. If you get to 4 knights, you're still happy. 4 knights, 3 dragons, you're a happy person. You're okay. Like, you're gonna start winning matchups, and you don't need to blow your gold re-rolling. At that point, Dragon Knight is already strong. Then you can just econ up to 50 and start re-rolling, right? Then you can get your other 6 dragons. You can get your Argali, your Evil Knight to 2 stars and all that type of stuff. Okay, so then the next step, you want to level 9. The reason for that is because Dragon Knight is super important. Getting him to 2-star is super important. If you go to level 9, you are going to have a much better chance, probability-wise, of getting a Dragon Knight, okay? So your probability goes from, I believe it is 15% chance to 20% chance, okay? So you've increased your probability of getting a Dragon Knight by 30% by going to level 9, so that's why. And getting your Dragon Knight to 2-star is extremely important because he is your main damage carry of this composition. Okay, so once you're at level 9, you just start re-rolling. Your priority is to get a 2-star Dragon Knight, and then after that, hopefully by then, all your knights should be 2 stars, right? Generally, it's not hard to get all your knights to 2 stars, and then you can start trying to take your 2 cost units to 3 stars. So your 2 cost units, the ones you'd be focusing on, Hell Knight, Lightblade Knight, Shining Dragon. You get them to 3 stars, and it's almost guaranteed GG unless you were facing somebody whose like entire team is 3 stars. But anyways, this was it for today's video. I'm not going to include the gameplay today. What I decided I'm going to do is I'm actually going to one day provide the guide, the overview, and the next day I will provide the gameplay of me playing with commentary. So if you're interested in seeing me play Dragon Knights with my commentary, my thought process building up Dragon Knights, then smash that subscribe button and look forward to that video coming in the next 2 days. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know feedback, your thoughts on this new format, on the structure, on the information I'm providing you so that I can keep improving and keep helping everybody out. But anyways, have a great day and I'll catch you all next time.